Welcome to CEO Perspective. I'm Dick Clark, and it's a pleasure to have you join us this afternoon. We've heard a lot about space exploration, and we've learned a lot and seen some unbelievable pictures from the planet Mars. So we're very fortunate to have as a member of our CEO Roundtable, Susan Holden Martin, who was the former CEO of the Mars Society. And let me just tell you that she's a fascinating individual. But the interesting thing about it is that she is actually from Fort Lauderdale. So I'm going to be introducing her in a minute. And one of my first questions is, how did you get from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to be the CEO of the Mars Society? So right after this message, you're going to meet Susan Holden Martin. Stay with us. Well, we are so excited to have, as a member of our CEO Roundtable, Susan Holden Martin. I have to ask you this question first. How did you get from Fort Lauderdale to become the CEO of the Mars Society? I just have to hear this story.
Right. Well, my father was in the boat business in Fort Lauderdale. We lived at BMR. It was a great childhood.
Wow.
But we ended up moving up north when I was a senior in high school, which I never forgave my parents for, by the way. But anyway, um, my uncle worked at Lockheed Martin on the Hubble Space Telescope, and my
Wow.
great uncle was the scientist at MIT who discovered the Russians' first Soviet nuclear explosion. So there were a lot of scientists in the family, but the Hubble project was a big motivator for me. And so I became interested in space, and I watched the moon landing. I'm old enough to remember that. So those are the things, when I got a little bit older, I thought, Mars is the next logical step. And that led me to some work around early 2000s with several Mars organizations.
Wow.
That
And
was the
and you went on to get an MBA and also a law degree. But some people are going to ask the question, what is the Mars Society? What does it do? And that's probably, we should start with that, so at least they'll understand what that organization is all about. So, what is the Mars Society?
Well, the Mars Society is a 501c3 charitable organization that owns and operates two Mars analog research stations. One is in the high Canadian Arctic, about 800 nautical miles from the North Pole, and the other one is in the desert of Utah. And there we have a variety of scientists, academics, journalists, people who come to do research or to learn what it's like to live in a restricted environment, what it would be like to be on a space journey, a long journey. So a lot of human factors research at those two places, and also though some biological research. So that's what we do.
Now, you had some role, and I think you maybe still have some role in those two sites.
I do. So when I was executive director, I joined the Flashline Station in the Arctic to the European Interact organization, which consists of a number of circumpolar research stations. And so I am the EU Interact station manager for Flashline. And on the desert station, I'm a member of the management team, which means that a few times a year we get together and we discuss operational issues or other issues. And I provide business advice. So,
Well, it's a heck of a commute to go from one site to one site to another.
indeed.
But Wow, and not to mention the climate difference between that. But what's so fascinating is the interest and the hunger to find out more about Mars. And what's the obviously we're looking at long term how people could reside on the planet Mars, either for a length of time or a shorter period of time. But how did Mars become such a target as the next place to move when we run out of space on the planet Earth?
Well, Mars is one of the only other planets in our solar system that is most like Earth. It has a 24-hour, approximate 20, a little bit longer than 24-hour daily cycle, and it we're fairly convinced by the geological record that we're seeing now that it once was warm and wet, and so that would inform, scientific information here on the planet. And so, because it's close, and people have been doing research there for a number of decades now, but originally, of course, it came out of this, enormous interest in the canals on Mars that people thought they were seeing from ancient telescopes. And so I think it's been in our imagination and our hearts for a very long time.
People often ask the question, and they still ask it of NASA with the space shuttle program, is that why are we spending so much money on going to the moon and going to and with the International Space Station and now Mars? What benefit is that having for those of us who reside on planet Earth?
Right, I get this question a lot. Why go to space? Right? Why go to Mars? Why go to space at all? And the short answer is that it helps us develop technologies for things that will benefit humanity. And so over the years, NASA has been, because it's been in the business of space, it's had to develop a lot of different technological innovations that now benefit people, the general public. So we've got, and I'm just glancing at my notes here so I don't get this wrong, but navigational tools, how to store and transfer large amounts of data. In fact, Vince Cerf and his team are working on the galactic internet, if you will. And so digital imaging and telemedicine came out of NASA, and a lot of these collaborative tools that scientists use all over the planet also came out of NASA technology. And so all of these things benefit humanity. And so this technology transfer is what's key. And a lot of people say, well, that's terrific. We could have lived without that. But, I'm not certain that's true. I'm not certain we would have had a vaccine in 8 or 9 months for COVID had we not had the benefit of some NASA technology along the way. So, yeah.
It's amazing with the International Space Station where they recycle things through 3D printing. They take everything that is brought to the space station that's plastic, and they're able to, whenever they need a device, they're able to take that plastic and put it through 3D printing if they need pliers or if they need a box or whatever they might need. They're able to take and recycle through 3D printing, and 3D printing is becoming a very important part here on Earth because we're building buildings, we're building parts of cars, we're even building entire boats out of 3D printing. And there's a deck of cards when I was at NASA that has each card is devoted to some discovery that was made in space that is now utilized. So I think the same thing we're going to learn from Mars. Yeah, before we went on the air this afternoon, we talked about a conference that the Mars Society is going to have. I think you told me it was in October. And so, how many people do you expect or think or project might show up for that? And what's the purpose of that very large conference?
Well, when we typically would have in-person conferences once a year, and then of course COVID. So we went virtual last year, and our attendance jumped, an amazing number. We went from about 1,000 on-ground attendees to approximately 10,000 in the virtual world. And so this is enormous for us because it allows us to get our vision out there by gathering like-minded scientists and people who are involved in Mars, both in the public and the private sector. And so that's really the ultimate purpose of it. I can't say that we raised millions of dollars at it, but some benefit comes from us through that gathering, and it has a great value to us. So we're looking for at least the 10,000 that we had last year. We're very hopeful, but we'll see.
The big subject that we discussed when I was at NASA at Kennedy was what happens after the shuttle program ends. And I guess our dream was that the private sector would step in and take over a lot of the things that NASA was doing prior to that time. And I should insert here for our viewers, in addition to having Mars covered with Susan, we also have James Jennings, who was the former deputy director of the Kennedy Space Center for years, the director with whom I worked doing my consulting at Kennedy. But it's fascinating to listen to both Susan and Jim at our weekly meetings. But what has been your? I mean, you've got to be one of the most excited people in the world, other than Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson. But what do you think of what's going on with tourism in space and all these activities that are going on? What's going through your mind as you think back about when you started this? That necessarily wasn't on the calendar for a month or two ahead, but what's been going through your head in the past couple of weeks as some of these things have developed?
Well, of course, the Mars Society has been well acquainted with Elon Musk for a couple of decades. Well before he started his program, he attended a meeting of the Mars Society. And out of that, I call him a Martian because his ultimate goal is to get there. And so he almost single-handedly, by transforming the space industry with his reusable rocket technology, makes Mars seem much closer. But the space tourism angle, some people say in the media, the last few days, people have been saying billionaires just doing their thing. But I think this is an important step because, sure, the wealthy, will be the ones who'll be the first tourists in space, if you will. But they will also come back to Earth, and I think Blue Origin says this on their website. They'll come back to Earth having had this incredible experience that they will then share with others for their lifetime, and so they will essentially inspire other people, or continue, next generation, to carry on space. And so that's very exciting. I don't think they're either or situations. I think they both SpaceX and Blue Origin and Virgin all contribute to the advancement of the things that we'd like to see happen in space in the next, at least, the next decade. So I'm very excited. We're all very excited. Um, and I do want to make one comment about the Kármán line, which there was a lot of debate over who actually should get their astronaut wings. Setting aside the FAA's announcement yesterday about how to do that, um, some people are saying, look, we need to agree on a Kármán line because as we get more and more companies in space, it's going to become a legal issue. And so I like that philosophy. Instead of just arguing over, where it should be. Let's look at getting together and setting that. And some, so the John McDowell at the Harvard Smithsonian Astrophysics Lab says, look, I've looked at all the atmospheres and I think it should be at about 50 miles. So whoever ends up determining this, it's going to be important in the future.
So somebody wants to move the goal line.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
and but it's it's quite interesting to hear what Bezos said when they came down, and the fact that you don't realize how small the planet Earth is until you get out into space and look down. And for those that were on the moon, the Earth is even smaller, and from Mars, obviously. But people, when you live on Earth, all of this stuff sounds like science fiction, but it's just fascinating, and we could talk about this all day, but I know all of us on the CEO Roundtable, and I in particular, because I've known you the longest of anybody in the group. I can't tell you how much we learned from you, and the insights that you bring, the richness of your vision, just adds so much to what we're doing. And on behalf of our whole group and my company, I really appreciate your being with us and taking time this afternoon to share your experience. And we're going to hear more from you, and we're probably going to bring you back, and we'll get one of those people working as we get closer to that October Mars thing. So, Susan, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We really do appreciate your taking time.
Thanks, Dick. Delighted to be with you.
Well, it's not a fantasy. We're not the only ones on Mars, but they haven't found any green men yet. But they're learning something every day. And this is what this CEO perspective is all about. Our CEO Roundtable is focusing on the future. We're looking at what are things to come in the future. And every Tuesday, we're going to be taking a tough topic or an interesting topic or a challenging topic and talk about it. So thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care. Have a great afternoon.